What's going on YouTube? It's EK here again with some more StarCraft 2 co-op. And if you saw my recent video on StarCraft 2 co-op for beginners, this is going to be part 2 or a follow-up to the beginning. So if you haven't watched that one, please go watch that if you are looking into some co-op play. So this is a follow-up from that. So here we go. Alright, so now that you've played some co-op, you maybe have started, ranking up a few heroes or commanders here and there, and now you're wondering, or maybe you've leveled up all the way one, right? So now it's like, well, what's the difference between all these different commanders, like aside from obviously different attributes and units and whatnot, like what's the best way to go about in terms of moving forward and playing on, what's the best strategies, right? So from what I've seen, there is no meta really for it in terms of like each unit. Like for example, I mean, you could go mass battle cruisers for Raynor, or you can just go the traditional Marines, Medic, Marauder, and tank version. I've seen a lot of people use a lot of vultures and use spider mines, so you can kind of use a lot of things in terms of each different commander in terms of, and it fits your style of gameplay. Some characters are better for certain maps than others. For example, I believe Han and Horner are much more offensive, much more offensive than they are defensive. They are arguably, I don't think they have anything that's really defensive versus someone like Swan and Karax. They're extremely good defensive. In fact, like if you play the mission Dead of Night, or even I believe Temple of the Past, these guys are very good for these maps because they have they're so heavy on defense that you can use them very well for that. In fact, anytime that I play Dead of Night and I'm using Karax or Swan, I generally just offer to be like, hey, look, I'll cover all the defense, and then you just do the offense. That way, that way both players aren't like doing both, right? You're splitting your resources one way or the other, instead, or you're splitting your resources two ways. Instead, you do it one way or the other. That's what I meant. When you do it one way or the other, that way you can focus all on it, and then you complete the map that way. And obviously, the stats in the end are going to be very different depending on how long it takes them to complete it, but it's a lot more mutual. At least there's a lot more beneficial benefits in that way, instead of where most games I play, everyone just kind of goes almost like does it for themselves, or it's almost as if they're playing by themselves, but every character has like their pluses and minuses. Though I will say that though there's no meta, it does seem like Dahaka is arguably the most powerful unit. I mean, the commander, because like Dahaka himself, like once he levels up, I mean, he goes pretty crazy. Like he is super strong. And then like from what I've seen people do, they either get Swarm Host or Primal Host, and then or they'll get mutated like mutas, and they are very strong. I mean, and once you're in the end game of this, because like when you're in the end game, you start doing mastery points here, right? And once you start doing mastery points is really where the game like gets a significant change. Like for example, how you do these points is really up to you, and you do it according to how your playstyle is. For example, for me, like if I'm playing Kerrigan, I make sure she has all my points are going to damage, at least for now. And then Vespene gas combat unit Vespene gas costs are significantly lower, 13%. And expeditious evolutions are minus 20%, 6%. So time to research things are a lot, quicker. So a lot of things like that you can add towards it. So I'm only at level 40. I'm pretty sure like there is no cap to this level, because I've seen someone at over 200. But at that point, I don't know what happens really aside from just gaining levels, because all your points cap out at 180. So once you get 180, you could you pretty much you can have 30% damage and 30% carry energy regen. So once it caps out on everything, you're just kind of like this ultra strong commander. And it's really fun that way because You know, you can do every character right now, like I'm doing a little something different on each. Like for example, for Stukov, like I make sure my infest structure cooldowns are a lot slower, a lot quicker. And my Apocalypse, I like that more than the Alexander, so I make sure to get that one more often. And then Infested Infantry, I make sure that they stick around longer versus, you know, I don't use a whole lot of mech, you know. So little things like that really help out your gameplay once you're in the end game and you start leveling up your mastery points. There are, however, I mean, when I say there is no meta, also take that with a grain of salt. Because I've seen some people be really creative what they do. For example, with Kerrigan, you can get some really strong mutas. Because, you know, as you know, mutas are like the basic air unit, and they bounce around this glaive thing. So some of the upgrades for the meta, for mutas, is extremely strong. For example, on the Spire upgrade cache, you get Mutalist attack no longer decreases in damage with each subsequent bounce. So that means if you're hitting 10 per glaive before, you know, on the first person, then it probably dumbs down to 7 then 3 or something like that. I don't know what the actual percentage down is, but like, let's just say it does that. Now you're doing 10, 10, 10 on each bounce. And I believe there is even another upgrade for mutas where basically instead of only bouncing 3 times, it bounces up to 6 times. So you're essentially hitting 10, like if it just started at 10, you're hitting 10 on 6 different units at a time, which is extremely powerful. So because I saw someone literally, I think they have like about 30 or 40 mutas, because that's all they built in Kerrigan, and they were just murdering anything on the planet on like the screen, because I mean the amount of splash damage that is, and it's, you know, even though it's targeting 6 people and it's hitting 6 people. So I mean, if you had, let's just say you had a group of Marines, like 6 Marines, and each of them only has 50 health, you know, 5 mutas can destroy them at one hit, you know, because if they all shoot a glaive, it's hitting 10 of them each time, then there's 5 of them, so it hits them 50. So if they have no, you know, if they have no armor, those 6 Marines are just gone in an instant from one hit. So it can be very powerful in a lot of ways. But there's always ways to combat that, you know, like mutas, you know, they don't have a lot of range and they don't have a lot of hit points. So someone such as Swan, you know, can just make a whole lot of Goliaths and destroy them like that, you know, like you can do, or you know, even just like having a mass battle cruisers, right? Because like even though you're hitting a lot with those mutas, you know, the battle cruisers have a lot of armor, and do a lot more damage, and they shoot pretty, and their attack speed can be pretty quick too. So, you know, depending on how you work things, you know, there's always some kind of counter, which is really what's good about this game, you know. Hell, you can even use science vessels and eradicate those mutas so that they just start losing life out of nowhere. You know, you can, I mean, assuming you're playing one-on-one, but obviously you're not playing one-on-one on these. But like, I'm just saying in general, like, there's always counters for this type of stuff. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say here is that once you're getting into the end game, the mastery points, really start using your guys a little bit more strategic, especially when you're playing on brutal. You know, like some characters are a little bit better on offense, they are better at defense. Make sure to kind of keep in mind of that. Some character, and then like, you know, play your maps accordingly. You know, and then also, you know, it's just always a good idea in terms of realizing certain maps, like they should be using different types of units in general. For example, where's the one? Trying to find the one that's where you're fighting Void Launch. There we go. It's the last one. Where this one is like, you know, mainly anti-air. You know, so like you want to make sure you're not using a whole lot of units that just hit the ground. So if you're, you know, playing with Protoss, you want to use Stalkers or Dragoons or, you know, anything that hits air. You know, you don't want a whole lot of Immortals that can't hit air. You know, with the exception of, I believe, exception of like Selnaga and Fortress that can hit air, but like, you know, if you're using just regular Immortals, they can't hit air, you know, so it's like, be wary of that, right? Or like using Reavers, they can't hit air either, so, you know, you want to use things like Phoenix, you know, and Corsairs and whatnot, so just saying, and also, you know, you would not want to use Oracles on the air map, so things like that. Anyways, you know, this is just kind of like part 2 or kind of follow up to my first beginners for co-op. If you have any questions about co-op, please leave a question in the comments and I'll try to answer you as quickly as I can. But as you guys are continue playing, please, if you feel like it, add me on Battle.net. I'm Eduardo Kun. If you know where that's from, then you get bonus points, and the points mean nothing. So, but yeah, if you want to play together, I'll be more than happy to play with you if you're a beginner, and then like I can coach you through some stuff, and hopefully, you know, you can get better at this game. But anyways, I'm going to go back to playing some more games right now, so I'll talk to you guys later. Alright, take it easy.